Ball State Sports Link's third down chirp is delivered by Papa John's. Better ingredients, better pizza. Visit papajohns.com today for more info.
And welcome back to another great episode of Third Down Chirp delivered by Papa John's. I'm your host, Luke Martin, alongside, as always, Zach Hughes, Tyler Bradfield. Fellas, the Cardinals hit the road last Saturday, and this time, though, they came back with that all-important win.
I don't think the Cardinals could have imagined a better start to their MAC season, a win on the road at Eastern Michigan. A great start for the Cardinals.
You know, their first road trip, they struggled against North Texas on the road in Denton, Texas. They lost. They go back on the road the following week at Eastern Michigan and get a nice win for them to start MAC play.
No doubt, Tyler, it was a nice bounce-back win. Well, let's recap that win against Eastern Michigan with our opening drive with our three main headlines from that win in Ypsilanti. Zach, what stood out to you? What was your impression from the game Saturday?
Just simply Keith Winning's dominance and how good he's been. He's second in the country in passing yards with over 1,300. He's thrown 2 touchdown passes in 9 consecutive games. The next highest in FBS is only 5 consecutive games. Ball State's the only school to score opening touchdown on their opening drive, and the offense is averaging 42 points per game. Guys, I know he's a senior, and I know he's been starting for almost 4 years now, but he's just been so impressive this year.
What stood out to me was the next man up philosophy. Ball State's kind of been plagued by the injury bug, and guys have been out. Horatio Banks had to step in for Juwan Edwards. A couple wide receivers were out in this game. No Kevon Mabon, no Connor Ryan. And what do you know, Jordan Williams stepped up big. He had a career-high 105 yards, Zach, off of 4 catches. He also brought in 2 big touchdown catches for Ball State in the first half. So that was kind of my story, was next man up with Jordan Williams.
And whoever had Jordan Williams as an X factor last week was pretty smart, and that was Tyler Bradfield. For me, this is easy. He's back. Juwan Edwards, what a game he had. He was huge for Ball State having the running game. That was Coach Limbo's biggest criticism so far earlier in the season, was the lack of consistency in the running game. And they got that back with Juwan Edwards, like you mentioned, over 15 carries for 81 yards on the day and 3 touchdowns. All were huge for the Ball State Cardinals. Well, that wraps it up for our opening drive. Let's relive the game with our Sounds of the Game segment as we hear the calls from Tyler Bradfield on WCRD right here.
We are in Ypsilanti, Michigan this afternoon, where the Ball State Cardinals are going to try and get their first win on the road after slipping to 2-1 on the season last week with a loss at North Texas. Today, it's the Eastern Michigan Eagles against the Ball State Cardinals. You're on SportsLink Radio, 91.3 WCRD. Pierce Benz takes the snap, pulls away, hands off Jackson to the 5, Jackson to the goal line, and he will score. The Cardinals on the offensive attack for the first time in this game, trailing at 6-0 to Eastern Michigan. 2nd and 12 for the Eastern Michigan 36 on the left hash mark. Fakes will move in motion from left to right. Winning takes the snap, hands off to Juwan Edwards into the backfield. Edwards is met at the 35-yard line to the 30. Oh, he broke it out to the 20 to the 15. Edwards is going to the goal line. Welcome back, Juwan Edwards, and the Cardinals have struck back. 1st and 10 for Ball State at the Eastern Michigan 43-yard line. 6:29 to play in the first quarter. The Cardinals leading it over the Eagles 7-6. The Ball State Cardinals working it from left to right from the right hash mark of the Eastern Michigan 43. A receiver in either direction. Winning takes the snap, hands off right side. Horatio trying to find a hole. He does to the 40, 35, 30, down the near sideline to the 20, to the 15, to the 10, to the 5. Horatio will score for the Ball State Cardinals as they stretch the lead 13-6. 2nd down and 8. Here's the snap. Winning back to pass. He lost one for the end zone. And Jordan Williams has it back corner of the end zone. Touchdown, Ball State. Jordan Williams brought it in over the shoulder. It's a touchdown for the Ball State Cardinals. 3rd and 8 from the Eastern Michigan 31. It'd be nice for the Cardinals to convert this here. 2 right, 1 left. Back with him for Keith Winning is Horatio to his right side. Winning takes the snap, sets up, look. He lost one for the end zone. It's Jordan Williams bringing it in again. Deja vu all over again. Jordan Williams with his 2nd touchdown catch of the day. What a day this man has had. Jordan Williams, 2 touchdown catches for Ball State. Benz takes the snap, hands off Brunfield at the 1. He pounds his way in. Touchdown Eastern Michigan.
22 from
Ben's on the drop for Eastern Michigan, sets up, looks, has time, throws right, intercepted by Martez Hester. Hester returning it down the left side. And that'll do it. The Ball State Cardinals will start Mid-American Conference play 1-0 with a win today over Eastern Michigan in Ypsilanti, 51-20. The Cards victorious. They improved to 3-1 on the season with Toledo in Muncie next weekend.
Ball State gets back on track with the 51-20 win over the Eastern Michigan Eagles. The Cardinals put 50-plus points on the board for the 2nd time this season. The last time Ball State had 2 games in the same season where they scored 50 or more points, that was back in 1965 when gasoline was only 31 cents a gallon. That was way back in the day for the Ball State Cardinals. Now for our new segment here on Third Down Chirp, Across the Field. This is part 1 as we talk with head coach Pete Limbo, as he knows every win against a MAC team is important.
Both teams got off to a fast start over the weekend up in Ypsilanti. Both scored touchdowns on the opening drive. Our defense settled down after the opening drive, caused a few turnovers, and then we were able to get a score right before the half on a reverse that put us up 3 scores that I think was real important. You know, Eastern Michigan's a good team, and I think they're certainly going to do some good things this year. Moving on to Toledo, just a real tremendous challenge this week. Toledo's got some really incredible talent in their program. I really like their O-line. Their center, Karen, who's a senior, big guy, 300-pounder, and they've got a bunch of juniors around him that are very big, very athletic. And then on the defensive side of the ball, more of a 3-down look this year, and a real big physical defensive line, some young guys there that can really play. And then one of the things that's really been helping Toledo this year is their special teams. Their kickers, 8 of 9 on field goals for the season, so he's been quite a weapon for them. But just their overall speed and athleticism and diversity in the kicking game is impressive to watch.
As you heard Coach Limbo, extremely pleased with that win up in Ypsilanti, but he understands that this Toledo Rocket team coming into Muncie, Indiana Saturday, it's going to be a big test. But we will talk about that game later on in today's show. But hey, fellas, it's that time of year again. It's MACtion time. Mid-American Conference football is kicking off. So let's go ahead and let's look around the MAC and see what all the other MAC teams are doing. There's more teams than just in Muncie, Indiana in the Mid-American Conference. As you can see up on the screen, Louisiana Lafayette knocking off Akron 35-30. Boys, looking at that screen, what impresses you most about what MAC teams have been able to do, especially last week?
Well, nothing really surprises me on that screen. You look around, and a lot of the teams that were supposed to win got the win. And we talked about it last week, the Northern Illinois game we thought would be close against Eastern Illinois, and it was. And Ball State just running all over Eastern Michigan.
It'll be interesting to see once we get a couple weeks into MAC play how everything shapes up, how the top-tier teams do. And once they start battling each other, a big game this week with Ball State and Toledo. But once we get a couple more weeks into this, it'll be really interesting.
You're exactly right, Tyler, from the standpoint of we don't know what to expect yet. It's still early on in the season. There's a lot of games that need to be played. You mentioned some big games up there on the board. Huge for Toledo to knock off Central Michigan as they start off MAC play with 2 straight road games. Obviously, that second one being right here, going to be in Muncie, Indiana. Well, boys, now let's go through our 3 and out, our 3 questions here about the Mid-American Conference. And let's start off, It's pretty simple. Who's been the most disappointing team, Zach, so far in the MAC?
I think the most disappointing team for me is Central Michigan. They're 1-3 so far in the season. They got routed by Toledo at home. Their only win of the year was at home. They only won by 3 against New Hampshire. And coming into the season, they returned 26 players with starting experience. They returned their leading receiver and rusher and their 2 top tacklers. And after the bowl win, it's just kind of disappointing this year, and it's not going to get any easier. 5 of their last 8 games are on the road this season.
Well, my most disappointing team so far has been Kent State. Last year, as they end the season in the Mid-American Conference Championship game against Northern Illinois in double overtime, Northern Illinois went on to the Orange Bowl. That proves just how good Kent State was. Now, fast forward to this year, they're 1-3. Now, granted, they do have a new quarterback and an inexperienced line, but it's kind of been a disappointing start at 1-3 going from where they were last year.
And the most disappointing team for me is I love Coach Fleck. I think he's can do a really good job out there in Kalamazoo. But the Western Michigan Broncos, I got to tell you, that boat better have a motor because it's not working rowing right now early on in the season. You look at Iowa over the weekend, guys. They had, in that ball game, Iowa had 2 pick sixes, 2 interceptions, ran back for touchdowns, 2 punt returns of 83 yards and 63 yards. That's almost effort right there. That's nothing that they're really doing schematically. That is effort for Western Michigan right now. And early on in the season, they are 0 for right now. And with MAC play starting up, it's going to be hard to get a win against some of these quality MAC teams. But for me, even though they weren't really expected to beat a Michigan State, they weren't expected to win some of those games, but still, I expected a little bit more from Western Michigan. All right, let's flip the tables here. Let's talk about the positives. That's enough about the negatives. Who's been the most impressive team so far, Zach?
Well, I think going into the season, a lot of people had high expectations for Northern Illinois, and I'm most impressed with Northern Illinois so far. They're 3-0. It just seems they're taking care of business, Tyler. They're averaging almost 300 yards per game on the ground, and they're at Purdue this week. And then their first 5 MAC games before they see Ball State, the teams in the MAC have a combined record of 4-16. So if they take care of Purdue, they should be undefeated when they come here to Muncie, or when Ball State goes up there.
I'll have to agree with you. My most impressive team so far has been Northern Illinois. They're 3-0, but if you take a look at who they've beaten, Iowa, Idaho, and Eastern Illinois. Not the best of schedule. Iowa, a Big Ten team on the road. That's a good win for them. But wait until they get into the heart of Mid-American Conference play. We'll find out just how good this Husky football team is.
And the Huskies have really struggled in those 3 games. They were down big to Idaho, had to come back and win, and Iowa they were down and had to come back and win that game. But the important thing is they won all of those games. For me, the most impressive team, call me a homer. I don't care what you say. I think it's got to be Ball State. I mean, guys putting 50 points up twice. I said that statistic earlier. It hasn't happened since 1965. The offense is rolling, first in total offense in the Mid-American Conference. But the most impressive thing is the defense. They have 4 interceptions already this year. They had 7 all of last year, and they are second in total defense in the Mid-American Conference right now. To me, that screams most impressive. It's the way Ball State is winning these games. They're not late game dramatic sequences like we're used to. They're dominating these games, and that is something that is kind of weird about the Coach Limbo tenure. Usually it's those one-possession battles towards the end of the game. All right, we talked about most impressive. We talked about most disappointing. Who are you looking out for? What's a team that maybe people aren't paying attention to? The underdog, sort of say the rest of the way, Zach.
Well, I like the Ohio Bobcats. Their only loss is at number 7, Louisville. But I feel like everyone around here, their attention's always on the West in Northern Illinois and Ball State and Toledo. But Ohio doesn't see any 3 of those teams on their schedule. So if they get into the MAC championship game, guys, it's only going to take 1 game to knock off one of those teams, and they're the MAC champions.
My under-the-radar team is the Ball State Cardinals, and a lot of the reasons are for what Luke just said. How impressive has this offense been, putting up so many points, putting up 50 points twice, but not only that is the defense. The defense has been good. They're getting more stops than they did last year, and they're forcing turnover. Right now, they're 8th in the country in turnovers gained at 10. So my under-the-radar team is Ball State as we go into Mid-American Conference play.
A lot of people are talking about those 2 teams. You know, talking about Northern Illinois, talking about Ball State. Toledo. I think Toledo is the under-the-radar team. Not a lot of people are talking about them just because of that brutal schedule. But when you play Florida, when you play Missouri, and you play number 2 Eastern Washington in the FCS, those are all 3 quality opponents. They're sitting at 2-2. They are not a 2-2 football team. That's for sure. They got weapons all over the place. Toledo, and they're going to be a tough task, no doubt about it, for the Ball State Cardinals this weekend at Schumann Stadium. Well, mentioned Toledo. They're my under-the-radar, my underdog team. Let's get them meet the Rockets. Obviously, the Rockets from Toledo, Ohio, in the great state of Ohio, just right next door here to the state of Indiana. Their head coach is Matt Campbell. obviously taking over multiple things to do over there in Toledo, Ohio. There are 11 Rockets right now on current NFL rosters. 6 of them are wide receivers, hence why they have had so much success offensively in the years they're over in Toledo. And the series, how about this? The series between Ball State is 19-18-1. That's as close, fellas, as you can get between these teams, especially here at the collegiate level. And let's get to know this Rocket team a little bit better by going our Behind the Mic segment with Mark Beyer, the voice of the Toledo Rockets.
You know, coming into this one on Saturday, obviously it's the one that's been circled by both Ball State and Toledo fans, and it's a game that I'm certainly looking forward to this coming Saturday afternoon in Muncie. It starts with their quarterback, Keith Wenning, and the job that he does and the talented receivers he has to throw to and the running backs. I know they lost quite a number of their terrific offensive linemen from last year, but Pete Lembo obviously has done a great job recruiting, and it looks like Ball State isn't skipping a beat. So certainly you think of Ball State and the firepower on the offensive side, but I'm sure defensively they're going to be a real challenge for the Toledo Rockets as well. And from Toledo's perspective, that's one area that I think has improved. In second year under Coach Tom Matukowicz, the defensive coordinator, and you'll see a really young but aggressive defensive front this coming Saturday that Toledo will bring.
Huge thanks to Mark Beyer for stopping by and letting us talk to about that Toledo Rocket football team as they are fueling up those Rockets to come to Muncie for this big-time football game. Well, someone who's going to be on that Rocket, someone that's going to be on that bus is the head coach of the Toledo Rockets, Matt Campbell. He's done a great job over there in Toledo, Ohio, one of those young gun head coaches that you are always looking at to make that next jump to another school. But, hey, he's impressed with this Ball State football team, and in part 2 of our Across the Field segment, we caught up with head coach Matt Campbell with his thoughts on the Ball State Cardinals.
Now this week we prepare to play another really talented, really well-coached football team on the road, so it'll certainly be a great challenge for our kids in our program. You know, I think I don't know how much they differ other than the fact of, you know, they just keep getting better, and I think a lot of that tribute goes to their head football coach and their staff. I think they're extremely well coached, and I think a lot of tribute goes to their outstanding quarterback. You know, Keith's a young man he's tremendous. He gets rid of the ball, gets it into space, doesn't make many mistakes, and he's a guy that you know, you can tell is a tremendous field general for them on their football team. Well, you know, I don't know if you can ever totally stop a team like that, and you know, I think that they've got a lot of really good weapons. You know, they've got outstanding tight end. They've got really good receivers, and certainly they've got 2 really good running backs, in my opinion. So I think that they've really created an offense that's extremely efficient and know how to attack. And again, a lot of credit goes to their coaches and certainly to their quarterback.
Horatio Banks with a 77-yard touchdown run.
Well, fellas, we just heard Coach Campbell talking about all the X factors for Ball State. Well, what does Coach Campbell know, right? Well, let's hear your guys' X factors for the game Saturday. Who stands out from a Ball State perspective if Ball State wants to pull out a win, Zach?
Well, if Ball State wants to get the win, it's Zach Ryan, the middle linebacker. He's going to have the responsibility to slow down the Toledo running attack. Ball State's giving up 218 yards per game in the run, but I know that's a little skewed because they played a team like Army, but you have David Fluellen coming in. He leads the MAC in rushing. He had 197 yards and 2 touchdowns last week against Central Michigan, and last year when he played Ball State, he had 200 yards and 1 touchdown. So Zach Ryan, he's going to have to slow down David Fluellen and this rushing attack for Toledo.
I completely agree with you that the middle linebacker has to be huge for Ball State because of the rushing attack for Toledo. But also on the offensive side of the ball, Jamil Smith has to have a big day because Toledo has a guy that's very much similar to Jamil Smith. His name is Bernard Reedy. He was voted one of the top 10 Mid-American Conference player that's draftable after this season. So if Jamil Smith is able to outplay Bernard Reedy, it should be a good day for the Ball State Cardinals.
And by the way, that was a joke. Coach Campbell knows much more about football than I do, that's for certain. But my X factor, I'm talking about him a lot today, but it's Juwan Edwards. He was huge last year on the road, knocking off top 25 Toledo. He's going to have to be huge again. I still remember the 3rd and 8 where everyone thinks Ball State's going to throw. They hand it right after Juwan Edwards, picks up the first down. Eventually, the game-winning touchdown drive, the touchdown score on that drive. Huge run to win that game. Honestly, Coach Limbo talked about in his weekly press conference on Tuesday that those are the wins that make this game this weekend exciting. Yep. If you want to be relevant, you got to win big-time football games because that means you're going to have more big-time football games. And they sure have a big-time football game this weekend in Muncie, Indiana. One player who has also been big-time for Ball State, he had to fill in for Jonathan Newsom a couple weeks ago. That is Michael Ayers. And we get to know Michael just a little bit better with our Papa John's Slice of Life segment.
My name is Michael Ayers. I'm from Elk Grove, California. I play rush defensive end for my redshirt sophomore. My favorite football memory is throwing a winning touchdown to my high school teammate Don Jackson in the final minutes of the game. Player I looked up to, I know it's very stereotypical for defensive players, but Ray Lewis, just because of his dog fight mentality, such a, an aggressive guy out there on the field, and he kind of stands for what I would like to stand for as a young man. Coach Limbo was nice enough to call me and offer me, and for me I wanted to come because he showed the most interest. He showed that he actually wanted me to be here, and it wasn't me competing to be here. He actually wanted me to be here, and I felt that this would be the best situation for me. Coach Limbo, he's been fantastic. He's taught us a lot. He's a very detailed guy. He's taught us to be detailed. He's taught us to just have good character and to just do the right thing on and off the field. He's always there. I used to think that he was hard to talk to, because the media, and he would never be around. But, Coach Limbo's a real easygoing guy, easy to talk to, and real nice guy. We go by squad. Squad is like a family of just dogs who are all on the same mission and all reaching towards the same goal as a family. We're all very close, hang out with each other on and off the football field consistently. I'm with squad most of the day, so we're a very close-knit group.
Huge thanks to Michael Ayers for allowing us to talk to him for our Papa John's Slice of Life segment. All right, fellas, last week we were what you would call experts. We were perfecto on our picks last week. Could it be that we picked all the same games? Well, let's find out this week to see how we do in our games with our final drive. Starting off with a big game for the Mid-American Conference, Northern Illinois. They will travel on the road to play a Big Ten team in Purdue. Zach, how do you see this game going down?
I think it's going to be closer than I originally thought when the schedule came out at first. And my X factor for this game is Rob Henry, the quarterback for Purdue. I think if Purdue can put points up on the board, they'll hang with Northern Illinois. But in the end, I think Jordan Lynch is too much. I have Northern Illinois in this one.
Northern Illinois has already won at a Big Ten team's house, and that's Iowa. Now they go to a bad Big Ten team's place in Purdue. So I've got Northern Illinois in this one as well.
I have Northern Illinois. They will knock off Purdue. Purdue played well against Notre Dame at home just 2 weeks ago, but they got routed by the Wisconsin Badgers just a week ago. But we'll see what Coach Hazel, former Mid-American Conference coach, has in store for a team he knows very well in Northern Illinois. Second game on the docket, UConn. They will travel to Buffalo. UConn, they were almost had an upset over Michigan just last week. Can they beat Buffalo from the Mid-American Conference?
UConn to me is really inconsistent this year. They were dominated by Towson, and then they played with Michigan last week. It's their first road game away from UConn. I like Buffalo. I think they're an underrated MAC team, and I like Buffalo at home.
This game is interesting because between these two teams, they only have one win. But I don't think the sample size is big enough to attest what type of football teams both of these are. I've got Buffalo at home as well.
I think Buffalo will pull off the win, a big win for them to get them at even on the year to go 2-2. Look for Buffalo to get that big win over UConn. Third game on the docket, Miami of Ohio. Those Red Hawks, they were pesky last week. They hung around. They almost got Cincinnati, which would have been a huge win for them in Oxford. Now they go to a Big Ten team in the Fighting Illini of Illinois. Zach, Can they pull off this win unlike last week?
I don't think they can get it done on the road. Miami, Ohio, they haven't won a game yet. They're not ranked in the top 100 in any main statistical categories in the FBS. I think Illinois dominates at home.
Yeah, I don't think they can win either. That's Miami. They can't win at a Big Ten team's house at 0-3. It goes to Illinois.
ILLINI, the Illini pull out the win against Miami of Ohio, which would be a huge win if the MAC could pull that off. But the Redhawks fall short. The Illini get the win. Our fourth game, Akron at Bowling Green. The Falcons hosting the Zips. Actually, no, I got that wrong. Actually, Akron hosting the Zips. Man, I don't know where I'm going with this. Zach, take it away. Who you have in this game, regardless of who's playing?
Bowling Green at home, but I think there's too much Falcons in this one. I like Bowling Green to take it.
Bowling Green's a pass-heavy team. Akron's struggling to defend the pass. Bowling Green at home.
Regardless of where the game is played, I have Bowling Green. The Falcons will get the win over the Zips. My goodness, I don't know what happened there. But, hey, we know where this game's being played, though. The game of the week, Ball State, Toledo, Rockets, Cardinals. By far the biggest MAC game so far this year. It's very early. Zach, who do you have win the showdown?
The only reason I'm going to go with Ball State in this one is because it's here in Muncie, Indiana. I have Ball State in a very close one, 35-34.
Well, I think this is the best Mid-American Conference game thus far, and I've got Ball State as well, 33-25.
Man, we are close on our predictions this week. It's going to be a good one. Please come out to Shubin Stadium. It's going to be a great offensive firepower game with the Cardinals pulling out the win, 38-31. It's going to be a thriller. Keith Winnie going to have that late touchdown there late in the game. Once again, kind of throwing that in there. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this great edition of Third Down Chirp, this great episode delivered by Papa John's. Don't forget, you can find us on Facebook by searching Ball State Sports Link, and we are also on Twitter at Third Down Chirp and at BSU Sports Link. For our great producers in Drew Adamson and Alex Seitz, for Zach Hughes, Tyler Bradfield, I'm Luke Martin. We'll see you next week.